I lost my mother to lung cancer. She dealt with it for about a year before she ended up passing away. There's so many things that I've learned. She left me with a gift that was so unexpected. My mother left me with something so profound that helped me to live the rest of my life up to this point, and reminded me of God's presence in my life as I walked through my grief. My grief journey has definitely taught me what I just said, that grief is not a means to an end, but it's actually the beginning of something new and something fresh. And for me, that means fresh perspective. I will never be the same after losing my mom. And I think the reason why I want to have more of these conversations, and the reason why I wanted to even write this book, is because Hello. Welcome to the Care to Talk podcast. I am Caroline, aka Care, aka CareBear, whatever you want to call me. That's who I am, your friend and your host. And I'm so excited that you are here today. It has been a long time coming. I think about a year and a bit ago, I said that I was going to start some sort of thing. I didn't call it a podcast because I was afraid to actually commit to doing a whole podcast. Still kind of am, but I'm just going to step out on faith and a little bit of fear and do what I believe I should be doing in this season. So this podcast is just me and you, my camera, my mic, and my laptop. A lot of notes that I'll be reading and just kind of breaking down with you guys. I don't have a teleprompter or anything like that. But I just wanted to have a candid conversation, have an authentic conversation as well, and just give you a little bit of behind the scenes. So what's been going on in my life, what's been going on as it pertains to the podcast, and the things that you can expect in the months to come. So forgive me for looking at my computer back and forth a lot. I have a lot of notes. I'll be reading from them most of the time. Hopefully that's not boring. And let's just have a conversation. Care to Talk podcast. It's been a year and a bit coming. Finally here, where we're excited and ready to actually start having conversations with people, recording them and putting them online. I think this is the great time to be doing so because, shameless plug, I'm coming out with a book, and it's going to be talking about my journey with grief and loss. I think it's the perfect time to be talking about something like this and ease into that conversation, get comfortable with the conversation, because I feel like it's not something that we talk about a lot, so that when the book is in your hands, you'll be able to kind of hear a little bit about what's been going on in our brains, and not just my brain, but the brains of other people who have experienced what I have. So without further ado, let's get into it. First, I want to share the intro of the Care Talk podcast. It's not really in the video themselves. I kind of just get right to the point. But whenever you see the Care to Talk podcast in the world, whether it be online or on some sort of platform, this is what you will see. So welcome to the Care to Talk podcast, where lively conversations meet heartfelt stories. Join us as we dive into thought-provoking discussions, share inspiring journeys, and share stories that spark curiosity and connection. Each episode is a journey into the minds of fascinating guests, exploring topics that challenge and change us. So grab your favorite beverage, mine is tea, get comfy, and let's talk. It's a place where you can feel warm, where you can feel heard, where you can feel understood through the stories of the people that come and join us. And I cannot wait for you to meet them because they are all such phenomenal people. And I'm actually still looking for guests. So if you want to be one, or you know of someone who would like to talk about this topic, please send them my way. So I want to get into our Grief Talk opener. The Grief Talk opener is basically just some thoughts that I have about grief that I would love for you to know before we dive into the conversations with my guests. This is pretty much my mind when it comes to the topic of grief and why it's something that's so important to me to discuss with the world. So what did grief look like to me? Honestly, if I were to paint a picture, it would have a lot of grays and blues and blacks and dark purples. Grief was dark. It was not a pleasant thing. It was something that was hidden away a lot. It was something that you had to quickly get over. It was something that made one, very confused and feel alone. That's what I would say. So my picture would just be a lot of scribbles and dark colors that did not bring any type of joy. It was just sadness. That's what grief kind of is presented as, or has been presented to me, or my internal thoughts, I guess, based off of my life experience and what I know about grief. That's what it meant to me. Or what it looked like to me if I were to paint a picture. And I wanted to paint a picture because I feel like grief is a very hard thing to define. It's a really hard thing to define, but for some reason, the easiest way for me to articulate what it meant to me, or what it's showed itself as I've been walking through it, the picture is the easiest way to explain that. So hopefully that makes sense. Grief was just dark and scary, and it made me want to seclude myself and not have feelings and stuff like that. And the picture would be very ugly. All right. So I wanted to just kind of walk through my thoughts on grief and why it's such an important topic for me to tackle. We're diving into a topic that is, I think it's something that's swept under the rug a lot. I've been feeling a bit frustrated with how it's been handled in the world and how people refer to grief in the world. I've been feeling frustrated because it's either we shy away from the realities of grief and tell ourselves things like, don't stay there for too long. Don't be too sad. God's got you and he will pull you out. It's going to be all right. And that's true. But we immediately go to that place of it's going to be all right now, even if you just faced something that was horrific and heartbreaking. Or we're on the other side where we wallow in the deep well of despair for way too long. It cripples us. We start to feel hopeless and we seem permanently crippled by the loss that we experience. The thing is, both of these responses are a part of the human experience and they are okay. Well, to a degree. The problem arises when we lean too heavily on one side or the other, neglecting the natural parts of us that must be experienced. We end up forfeiting the benefits of balancing between those two realities. And so the bottom line here is we don't talk about loss and grief enough. And we certainly don't talk about the process of it all. And that bothers me. That grinds my gears, especially in the Christian context and perspective. I think it's something that Jesus has displayed and that we should take notes from. And I think that as much as we are spiritual beings, we are also still living in a tangible world and we have feelings. And so I feel like it's just something that we shouldn't throw away or ignore. You know, I think both worlds can exist, as I said before. So we only hear about grief, that word, occasionally and are never really equipped or ready to face it, even though every single one of us will face it one day. We're missing out on the many things that grief can teach us and the many things that grief can add to our lives. That's why Care to Talk is going to start with this topic of grief. We want to tackle this and we want the perspectives of many different cases of grief. We can experience the grief of a loved one, grief of a job lost, a child lost, a relationship lost, a dream lost. I want to cover it all, but I do want to primarily start with the loss of a loved one, because that's how I was hit with grief and I can resonate with that most. And I would love to share not only my story, but other people's stories as well. I think we're missing out on the many things that grief can teach us and add to our lives if we could just learn how to handle it better. Oh, hey there. I'm here just to interrupt regular programming to say, how are you enjoying the episode so far? If you are, I would love if you could share this video, share it with someone who might benefit from this conversation. Like this video to let YouTube know that it's an important one online, and leave a comment below if you would like to continue the conversation. If there's anything from the conversation that resonated with you that you would like to share and have conversations with other people who are watching, do that. Also, If you can subscribe to this channel, that would be great, because we want to grow. We want to grow, and we want more and more people to talk about topics that matter. And I'll see you at the end of the episode. I want every viewer who watches all the episodes to know that grief is not a means to an end. Grief signifies that we've experienced a significant type of end in terms of losing someone, but there is so much more that lies on the other side of it. And if we are willing to dissect its effects on us and learn to experience grief as a valuable lesson in this thing called life, I think we're headed in the right direction. So let's open up the conversation and explore this together. That's what got the podcast started, and that's the first topic that we're going to tackle. So I'm going to share a little bit about me so that you kind of get an idea of the person behind the mic and the person that will be interviewing all of our guests. I lost my mother to lung cancer when I was 16 years old, and I believe 16 or 17. Sometimes memory loss is a thing, but I believe I was 16 at the time. And she dealt with it for about a year before she ended up passing away. There are so many layers to the story. There's so many things that I've learned while walking through her cancer journey. I think I was the one sibling who was kind of around more. I was able to go to the doctor appointments with her sometimes and sit with her at home sometimes. And during one of those times, she left me with a gift that was so unexpected. And that's why my book coming is called The Unexpected Gift, because my mother left me with something so profound that helped me to live the rest of my life up to this point and reminded me of God's presence in my life as I walked through my grief. And so I intend on sharing a little bit about that and where that comes from in the book and stuff. But I think that these conversations that we have on the podcast will help get us to that place, so that when the book is in your hands, you're able to see the many lessons that those who pass on that we love have taught us. My grief journey has definitely taught me what I just said, that grief is not a means to an end, but it's actually the beginning of something new and something fresh. And for me, that means fresh perspective. I was introduced to a fresh perspective of life. And I think that's definitely changed me for the better and forever. I will never be the same after losing my mom. And I think the reason why I want to have more of these conversations and the reason why I wanted to even write this book is because I want to create an urgency around the significance of life, the fragility of life, the fact that we won't always have time here, even though we kind of live sometimes as if we're going to be here forever, but the truth is we're not. And so the importance of legacy, the importance of knowing Jesus, the importance of cherishing memories, the importance of cherishing the people that are in your life, even after loss, after you've lost those who are important to you. I think there's something to say about those who are still around and how we treat them. And yeah, I think that's just the heart around this whole fascination around the topic of grief. And so I hope that in these conversations you feel heard, seen, that you are able to learn a lot about how grief can change a person and how it can change us for the better. The lighting is not my friend, but I want in these episodes for you to learn that there is no one way to grieve. That's something I'm definitely learning and have learned. We are all on our own journeys, but the one thing that is consistent is God's presence and grace through it all. And I hope that these conversations actually highlight that for you. I just want to talk about grief more, and I want people to appreciate the topic because it's actually like a hidden gem. There's a quote that I bring up in a lot of the conversations saying that grief means that you've loved before and you've loved very well. And I truly believe that. I feel like the opportunity to grieve is actually a blessing because it's an indication that you were able to love someone to such high levels. And so, yeah, I just want to share with the world how loss and grief can actually be something that revives your soul and revives your life and revives your perspective on life. Yeah. And so I hope that every single person who listens to this podcast is inspired, is empowered, and is just encouraged that this is not the end for you. This is not the end for your story. This is not the end at all. There's so much more life to live after you've lost. And I'm taking my time with every word that I speak because this is such a heavy topic that means so much to me, and I'm sure it means so much to you as well. But yeah, there's so much more on the other side, and I hope that you learn that from every conversation that is had on the podcast. So I think that's it. I don't really have any more to say other than sharing a little bit of my story. I don't want to give too much away because I think there's going to be so many more opportunities to share my story. I just want everybody to know that grief and experiencing it for real, for the first time, really changed me. And I just want to bring this topic to surface so that it can positively impact and change the lives of other people who experience loss as well. But we're not going to end here. I think for the other conversations that we have in the future, we're going to dig into the different ways that one can grieve. So, of course, we're going to cover this topic of the grief that comes with losing a loved one. And we're going to talk about other types of grief as well. So the loss of a child, which is also a loved one, the loss of a dream, the loss of a relationship, the loss of anything really. Because I feel like the loss of anything can lead to the grief of anything. And so I really want to tackle all of those topics. I think they're all very important, but one topic at a time. We're going to start with grief of a loss of a loved one. And we will branch out from there. But let me know if any of this resonated with you. Let me know if there's any type of grief that you would like to cover. And everything's in the show notes below. Like this video so that we can get the Care to Talk podcast in the faces of the people who need it. Share this video with someone. And if you're listening on the actual audio version of the podcast, you can leave a comment or leave a review and let other people who come across the podcast know that this is something that they should tune into. Thank you so much for your time. I know this is a very somber and chill video, but I'm really at peace. And I think that's what you're seeing and feeling right now is just, I'm at peace with being in this place in my life where I'm comfortable to finally talk about something that has plagued me for so long. I'm comfortable to now be open with it and talk about it in a way that encourages others, including myself, because I'm still on the journey and I don't think I have it all together yet, but I'm on journey to being completely whole in Jesus' name. So yeah, thank you so much for your time, and I will see you in our first official episode and conversation. Take care.